Hey, everybody. All right, there we go. Happy Thursday. There's always something, right? Like I said, happy Thursday. I'm going to give everyone like 30 seconds to jump in. I know that most of you guys watch this on replay. I'm not going to waste too much time, but just want to make sure that it's working everywhere. And yeah, hope everyone's doing well. We are crazy busy over here with tax day right around the corner, which is part of why we're talking about what we're talking about today. So, all right, we're good. All right, I'm gonna jump into it. No, I'm not, because there it is. Can't jump into it without my outline. All right, you guys. So, in case you do not know me, if this is your first time here, anything like that, welcome. I am Bree Beers of Bree Beers and Associates, and we are a Denver-based CPA firm that specializes in tax advisory and strategy services. We also do tax prep. So welcome. And today we are talking about filing an extension. And it is no coincidence that we are talking about this today. So if you are here and you're watching, whether it's live or you're watching on replay, I want to welcome you and I want to commend you for being here, because my guess is if you're watching this right now, it's because you're like, April 15th is on Tuesday and I am not ready to file my return. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. All right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about what filing an extension actually means, how to avoid some IRS penalties and interest when filing an extension. So we're going to tackle some common tax extension myths of why people tend to maybe steer away or avoid filing an extension. I will give you guys step-by-step instructions. It's super easy. And what to do if you owe taxes but need more time to file. So we are going to tackle all of that today. All right, so let's jump in. All right, so we're starting with what is an extension. All right, and so for those of you that have S corps or partnerships, your return was due back on March 15th. So hopefully you either filed it or you filed an extension. But for a lot of you that follow me on YouTube and in the Facebook group, you guys have Schedule C businesses, which means you're just filing your business return information within your personal return. You don't have a separate return to file. All right. And as we all probably know, or we've known since we were 18 and working, tax day is April 15th. That is when we need to file our return. So if you're a personal, whether you have a business or not, your personal returns due April 15th. You know, a corporation, if you have a trust, anything awkward, like that. But we're focused on personal returns. All right. Personal returns are due April 15th. And a lot of us get to April 15th and we are not ready to file for whatever reason. All right. We'll talk about the top reasons that we need to file extensions, but sometimes we're just not ready. Hi, me. As a tax accountant, I am busy filing all of your my clients' returns, and I do not file mine on time. I file an extension and then I do my return in like May or June when things slow down. So what a tax extension does is it gives you extra time to file. Okay. It gives you your April 15th deadline, people. It gives you till October 15th. It gives you all the way till October 15th to file without the failure to file penalty. The failure to file penalty is 5% of anything you owe. So something to think about here, when it's your personal return, you guys, if the penalty is based on what you owe, if you don't owe, there's not going to be a penalty if you file late. However, there's no penalty or charge for filing an extension. So I always recommend that you file it, because what if you don't think you owe money? And so you're like, oh, I don't need to file an extension. I don't owe money. I'm not going to get penalized. And something weird comes up and you do. All you had to do was file that quick, it's called a Form 4868. All you had to do was file that quick extension, and you would have given yourself an extra 6 months and avoided that failure to file penalty. All right, so that's what a tax extension does. It does not give you extra time to pay your taxes. Okay, it gives you extra time to file, but if you know you're going to owe money, or if you end up owing money, all right, anytime between April 15th and when you actually file, you are going to accrue late payment penalties, which is like 0.0 or 0.5% per month of what you owe. Okay. So much less, right? A tenth of what it is to not file. So not filing will save you that 5% of what you owe per month um, for not filing. So we get a lot of people who come in, not a lot of people, but there's people that come into our Facebook group or new clients that are like, I do not want to file an extension. I'm against it. And we always ask people why. All right. Because they're really, extensions exist for a reason, you guys. And we'll talk about the main reasons they exist in just a moment. But some of the common misconception or fears that we get is first one is it looks bad to the IRS. All right. That's not true. The IRS does not care why you're filing. They just want it done right. All right. So many CPAs file extensions every single year for clients, especially clients with businesses, or if you're an individual and you are waiting for a K-1 from a business or a certain, and we'll talk about those reasons in a moment. But they would rather you do it right and do it once than do it wrong and have to fix it later. All right. So it doesn't look bad to the IRS to file an extension. Filing an extension increases your audit risk. Again, false. There have been so many studies done that show that there is no correlation between extended returns that are extended and not. All right. In fact, if you think about it, if you're rushing and trying to file your return at the last minute before April 15th, there's a bigger chance that you're going to make errors, right? There's a better chance you're going to miss some information. And by filing an extension, you avoid those rushing errors and not those mistakes, right? And then the other one that we kind of touched on already is that an extension means I don't have to pay it. All right, wrong. We'll talk about the different ways to file an extension and what to do if you can't pay, whether you're filing an extension or not. Taxes are due April 15th. And if you can't pay in what is due, you will start to accrue some late payment penalties and interest. All right. So an extension to file is not an extension to pay. All right. We'll talk about the process of that in just a moment. All right. So let's talk about why people file an extension. And most of the time it's because you're waiting on tax forms or tax documents. Right. Many times we have clients who are waiting on K-1s from partnerships or corporations or S corporations that are reporting income that they need to wait on. All right. Sometimes if you're a business owner, you need more time to organize your finances. And if you're not new here, if you've been with me before, you know that I am a huge advocate of make this the last year that you're filing an extension because your business finances aren't ready. All right. Hire a bookkeeper, or if you do your own bookkeeping, create a routine so you're keeping your books up to date throughout the year. All right. Needing time to organize your finances is an issue for all of us at one time or another, but make it like create habits, create systems within your business so that this isn't a recurring issue. All right. If you're not new here, you also know that another reason I really believe in keeping your books up to date and doing real-time bookkeeping is the necessity to have lifetime or real-time financial data to make decisions to help your business grow and succeed. Okay, a little tangent, but you guys know that I'm a big believer in that. All right. Another reason to file an extension is just to avoid mistakes from rushing, right? If we get clients in now, we have clients that we've been working on their returns and we're still waiting on information from them. And we'll get to the point probably in the next day or so where we will just let these clients know, hey, we don't have all the information yet. We're going to file an extension. That'll give us just those few extra days for you to get that information for us. And for us to make sure that we enter it correctly and avoid making mistakes. All right. Not all accounting firms work like this, but we are definitely, after 8 years of running our own business and, being in the tax world for a while, it is, for some people, you're like weighing the coin, right? Like, do I file an extension or do I rush it, get it done, and risk making mistakes? And absolutely the first. Filing an extension to give yourself, even if it's just a few extra days to finish up, to wrap up some loose ends, is going to be better than rushing through your return and possibly making mistakes and either then having to amend because you realize you missed something or you reported something incorrectly, or fixing a rushed mistake that you made because you were rushing, right? Maybe you forgot to fill out a form or you put a number on the wrong line, and having the IRS catch that and send you a notice saying, hey, you messed up. We need you to fix this. All right. So that in itself, avoiding mistakes from rushing, huge reason, huge positive reason to file an extension. All right. The other one is that maybe you want to work with a professional, but you got in too late and they're booked. Right. So this is an area where in the past, we have always cut off new client meetings like early March because if we couldn't get their return filed by April 15th, we just didn't take them. This year, we still held tax discovery calls with clients. And then if we were a good fit and we meshed, we told them like, hey, we're at capacity for filing by April 15th, but if you onboard with us and we get you onboarded as a new client, we can file an extension. And then as soon as you get us all your information, you'll go in the queue for us to work on in May. Right. And that actually worked. We actually got a handful of new clients that were totally fine with filing an extension. That if we were, operating under our old system of just not meeting with anyone at all, we wouldn't have gotten. So that's another reason to file an extension. Maybe you're like, I really want to work with someone, but nobody's taking on new clients right now. It's late. Get an extension filed, and then that'll give you time in May or June to vet people and find a good fit to work with you. All right. And so, super easy, quick training, right? But now it's okay. So we have talked about what an extension is. We've talked about the common misconceptions. We've talked about when it is a good idea to file an extension. So let's talk about actually filing the extension. All right. So if you have a tax preparer, they will file the extension for you. If you're going back to the same person that did your returns last year, you simply need to let them know, hey, I'm not going to be ready to file. Just want to make sure you're going to file an extension for me. And every accounting firm is a little different on this. They may be like, I can do that. Here's a quick signed engagement letter. Some people collect signed engagement letters way earlier. So just communicate with your tax preparer to figure out what their process is for filing an extension for you. If you don't have a tax preparer yet, maybe you're filing an extension because you want to work with a tax preparer and you just haven't found the right one yet. You are going to want to file what's called the Form 4868. It is a form that is this big, you guys. It is not intimidating at all. It is super easy. And a fun little, if you might be able to do it through, I don't know how tax, H&R Block and TurboTax work. I don't know if you can file an extension through them for a fee and then that fee gets applied. I'm not sure how to do that. All right. I do know that you can go file directly at the IRS. All right. For free. Go to the IRS website, file an extension, and, when you file, make sure you save that copy, right? You'll get a confirmation. Make sure you save that because, things happen. Documents get lost even by the IRS. So make sure you save that somewhere safe. So if later down the road, maybe they try to tell you didn't file an extension, you can prove you did, but save that extension. Another thing to do, guys, if you have to pay, and we'll talk about paying with your extension in just a moment, if you pay via the IRS Direct Pay, which is on their website, or through EFTPS, and you select extension as the reason for making a payment, you don't even have to file the form. Making that payment counts as filing your extension. And then for most states, I say most because there are a few outliers, but Colorado, that's where we are, is one of them. If you file your federal extension, Colorado just automatically says that you're extended for them as well. And I think 30 something states follow this. So just check with your state, especially if you're in Ohio, New York, and California, because we don't work with clients really in those places anymore because their tax code just got a little too crazy for us. But make sure you don't need to file a separate one. I think New York you do. I can't remember about California. So we file an extension. So the next thing, we go back to an extension is not, to file an extension means you get 6 months longer to file your taxes. It does not mean you get an extension to pay. So what do I do here? Right? You're like, well, if I don't file my return, I don't really know how much I owe. So how am I supposed to make a payment if I don't know how much I owe? Right? And you can get an idea, guys. If you owe year after year after year after year and nothing changed in 2024, there's a good chance you owe money, right? And so at the very least, what we say is look at what you've paid in 2024 through your withholding, if you made estimated payments, figure out all the payments you've made, and then look at your 2023 tax return and see what your income was for there and see what your tax was. I'm sorry, what your tax was for 2023, and make sure your 2024 payments match what your 2023 tax liability was. Right? And if it's not, we suggest making that payment. Sorry. But even if you don't know, let's say you're like, oh, every year I owe about $1,000. So make $1,000 payment. It doesn't have to be exact. The reason you want to make a payment, the other side of that real quick, you guys, is if you make a payment and you end up getting a refund for some reason, right? You end up having an overpayment, you'll get that money back as soon as you file. All right. But keeping in mind that if you owe a large chunk of money, then the penalties and interest on that can accrue if you're not filing till September or October, right? Because even 0.5% per month over 6 months can add up if you've got a pretty hefty bill. So how we tell people to handle their extensions, right? So you're going to file an extension, or you're going to have your tax pro file an extension, and you can file it without payment, right? You file that form 4868 and you're good to go. You've given yourself an extra 6 months to file. We recommend then filing your return as soon as possible. All right. So what I think last week I talked about kind of this hierarchy of how you want to do it, how you want to file your return. Obviously, best case scenario, you're filing your return by April 15th. And if you owe any money, you're paying that as well. All right. That's like the top level, right? You're filing by April 15th and you're paying your tax liability by April 15th. Okay. The next best, this is what I tell people. We've had clients before who we've done all their tax work before April 15th, and then we can't get them to sign the signature pages to get us to file, right? And finally we're like, hey, this is the only step we have left. Just, return your signature pages so we can file your return. And they're like, well, I don't have the money to pay it yet. So I was just going to file an extension and pay it later. File your return. If it's ready to go, if the information is ready to go and the only thing holding you back from filing is payment, file it. Get it done. Don't worry about an extension. Get your return filed, pay what you can, if anything, and then call the IRS and get on a payment plan. All right, super easy to do, but that way you stay kosher with the IRS. But then you've got your return filed, it's behind you. You don't have to, that's not something that's hanging out there. The next best thing is to file an extension with an estimated payment if you expect to owe. All right, file an extension with some sort of estimated payment amount. Even if it's not enough, let's say you're going to owe 10 grand, right? Or more, right? You're just like, I had a really good year. I know I didn't pay enough tax. I'm going to owe over 10 grand, but right now I only have 3. Pay that 3 grand in, because anything you can pay towards your tax liability is going to decrease those penalties and interest. Because remember, failure to pay or late payment penalties and failure to pay penalties are based on your outstanding balance. So if as your outstanding balance decreases, those penalties and interest decrease as well. All right. And again, if you have no idea, but you have money, you're just like, I'm going to fork out this money, and you don't end up, it's not like you pay it and you're never going to get it back. You pay it, you file your return whenever you're ready. And if you have an overpayment, you'll get that back at that time. All right. And at the very, 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 very least, even if you don't have $1 to pay in toward your tax liability, get that extension filed. Right? Even if you don't think you're going to owe money, there is zero harm in filing this extension. All right. In fact, let me talk about that real quick. When we talk about the failure to file penalties, right? That's the 5% a month. That's the big one. That's the main reason we want to file this extension is so we don't have to pay those penalties. But if we're like, oh, well, we never owe money. We're never going to owe money. We don't need to file an extension. We'll just file our return when you're ready. But if you are looking to, say, buy a house or get some sort of loan, you may have a certification like a CPA license that requires you to be on time with your tax filings. All right. So there may be other outside repercussions to not filing on time. And here's the thing. By filing an extension, you're staying compliant with the on-time filing of your tax return. All right. I'm going to say that again. Whether it's because you need a house loan, maybe you have some sort of loan that requires you to be current with your tax filings, you can file an extension and stay compliant with those requirements. All right. All right. Cool. So I think that's it. I went through pretty fast. I hope it made sense. But April 15th, that is Tuesday, you guys. That is right around the corner. That is the day that if you are not ready to file your tax return accurately and, not rushed, then get that extension filed. All right. So let's see. And remembering that it's not a red flag, right? An extension can actually be a smart move if you need more time, right? An extended return that is filed properly is less of a red flag than an on-time return that has errors. Okay, remember that the extension is just an extension to file. It is not an extension to pay. That if you do owe any taxes and it's not paid in by April 15th, you are going to accrue some penalties and interest on that balance. And yeah, so I don't know, that's what I got for you guys. So next week, what are we talking about? Next week, we're going to talk about tax planning. Tax season will be over. And so we're going to just we're going to start going in. I got a lot of requests. I did a tax planning series about in May of last year. So you're welcome to go back and watch that on either YouTube or Facebook. But I've gotten a lot of inquiries over the last month or two, just because I think there's a lot more people in our community now that have been asking about tax strategies, right? Like, I want to do tax planning. What's available to me? People coming at me with specific strategies, right? Like, should I be an S Corp? Can I hire my kids? I've heard of this Augusta rule. What the heck is it? Home office expense. Can I, pay for my home office, my vehicle usage, meals, travel, all of these things we will talk about. But next week, we're going to kind of just do an over kind of general tax planning for 2025. Why you should start thinking about it now is really what we're going to focus on, because we get a lot of people that come in at year end and they're like, okay, I want to get ready for my tax season. I want, and it's December, right? And while we can still do that, there are still but the earlier we can start, the more advantage we can take of, the more advantageous the tax code is to us for 2025. So yeah, join me next week. We'll just kind of get into the basics. And then I think we'll probably do another series in diving into all of these separate strategies after that. So we'll see you next week at the same time. All right, guys. Bye.